Hey everyone, Hans here. Hope everyone's doing well. Tonight I'm going to talk a bit about natural hierarchies and artificial hierarchies. I've addressed this before in other videos, but I wanted to, I suppose, indulge myself a little and go into it a bit more. Maybe a bit more clear for some that way. And of course, it's going to be from my viewpoint. So you do with it what you want, right? As always. So where to begin? Let's begin with the artificial hierarchy, or maybe go with the word hierarchy first. So hierarchy, it basically comes down to leadership. Who is at the top of the chain and at the bottom of the chain? In the artificial hierarchy and in the natural hierarchy, it's more so like who is simply the most, who is at the top in a certain field, let's say. At the top in a certain field, but less so in another field. That's, I think, predominantly what it's gonna come down to. So, yeah, an artificial hierarchy, where does that begin? I find that an artificial hierarchy fundamentally is a top to bottom title system at the end of the day, when you really take away all the paperwork, etc. And this top to bottom system has many positions which can be filled in by individuals. The population within such systems exist can be, ranging from 50 people to, 320 million. Hint. For all one knows, and more, and definitely more. Many millions, if not a billion more. So, with that in mind, with that knowledge in mind, what happens is that in such a system, the positions, which I call titles really, whether it's minister, president, sultan, king, emperor, baron, I mean, whatever else is out there, Gudi, priest, pastor, all of that stuff, basically. All of these titles grant the person that has this title, for a while or not, it gives them the ability to assert the power that comes with that title, and also to accumulate the resources that come with that title. That can be money, that can be the attention of the other sex, that can be the drawing in of, I don't know, it could even just be luxuries or food or what have you. But then there is also that part that I notice, and that is that it can, that it attracts those with a serious ego complex of all variety. Because it truly takes a madman to say to oneself that they deserve to lord over, let's say, even just 5 different people, let alone millions, in my opinion. Why is that? Well, you just try this. Try to know one other person to the best of your ability, and you might even succeed. But then think to yourself, all that time and energy you need to invest to know someone else, like, really well, and to know what they want to live by, etc., etc. Try to multiply that by 10. Then try to multiply that by 100. Then by 1,000. And so forth and so on. One very quickly realizes is that one human being, if you will, one man or one woman, can simply not inhibit something or have something like a title that should give them the authority, if you will, to rule over that many and be able to understand what all these many people need. It's just not a thing. It's unnatural. And when it is unnatural, I personally call it artificial. So there is something else at play there, right? This is not a responsible system. This is more so for, it is not for the people who, quote unquote, who might, what would you call it, who think they elect people into these positions. No. It is for those who select people in those titles. And of course for those people who take the titles themselves that get selected in and eventually do some selecting of their own. Well, usually at least. To some extent. The whole purpose of that, it's just, in my eyes, little else than that. Getting essentially the authority that everyone is fooled into believing exists. Mind you, the word belief, it's a belief system. And it is for, it is, as you commonly hear, it is so the few are served by the many. The what do they say? The 1%. It's not necessarily the 1%, could be 0.1% for all we know, if not even less than that, but nonetheless, or the 3% or whatever, it doesn't matter. Basically it comes down to there is always those who will be at the top, who have the titles, and then just average people who are always at the bottom. You think of that what you want. That in and of itself, that tells us something about anyone that has a title like that in a system as such. I personally believe that is a big warning. Even if they seem to be quite nice blokes, they're not necessarily there for malice, but hey, they're still taking those titles and they still go in there, whatever the reason may be, believing that they can lord over many thousands, even if it is out of benevolence, but it is still just impossible to actually do so. You're always going to step on the toes of people. It's just, or you're always going to take advantage of people. Maybe that's even more important to realize. Because everyone is always going to step on toes. So that's actually, forget about that. It's a taking advantage of people who are below you in that title system. Have I gone into that enough? The artificial system for now? I guess so. I guess that is clear enough, and we have already went into it for 8 minutes. So I better move on a bit. The natural hierarchy, however, is something that can function, that is based on talent, experience, skill, work drive in a certain field. What that basically comes down to is that there is no control from someone else onto another. There is only what the self is capable of on behalf of the population, while realizing that what the self is incapable of also comes from that same population, but done by other individuals. Very simply explained, if you have 5 guys, to keep it very simple, and you have in these 5 guys one dude who is a plumber. Let's say you have a situation where you need to do your plumbing. We're all gonna listen to the plumber, right? If out of those 5 guys, that plumber, does that plumber then now become the king or the chief plumber or something? No, because he also needs the other 4. The other 4, one of them may be an electrician. So when electrical works need to be done, the plumber goes, what you might call in the natural hierarchy, he goes down, and the electrician goes up. And everyone suddenly starts listening to the electrician. And so forth and so on. The other one is a fisherman, a tailor, and a builder, whatever. Just to lay down the example, right? And for each in his own field, he or she is top man or top woman. And that's already basically it, because there is no extra resources for whomever is in a certain field because he's better at this or that. Maybe in a natural hierarchy, there may be moments where plumbers are going to be more necessary when there is a flooding. Just saying something. And in so long as that flooding is going on, yeah, maybe plumbers are gonna enjoy a bit more attention throughout that period than anyone else. But still, all these other people are also needed for the plumber to survive. Right? Does that make sense? Do you notice how quickly the second is explained? And how it isn't about someone getting more or less resources, or more or less authority, or more or less power, or all of that stuff. And I think that is very important to realize that also teaches us something. And it teaches predominantly that in the second hierarchy, the natural hierarchy, you who is listening now, can build yourself up to become excellent at least in one field, right? Many fields perhaps, but at least in one. And as you excel in that, you can provide that for people. You start giving a sort of, yeah, I suppose a bit material in this case, material value when it comes to such sort of tasks that need doing to survive. Nonetheless, you will be very important always. You will always matter, and it isn't even about, doing anything for anyone else outside of your field, like what you see in the artificial system where you have these people with these titles and they're supposed to do everything for everyone, which is just an impossibility, right? I think I've basically already said what I wanted to say by laying this out. I suppose if you have questions, you just give them to me in the comment section. If you if you can leave a comment still, because I'm not sure if anyone else noticed, but if you look at the view range of my last, let's say, 6 videos or so, it goes up and down a whole lot. And I'm also gonna leave you to make up your mind about that if you want to. What the deal is with that. Yeah. I suppose both these systems, or hierarchies I should say, pardon me, both these hierarchies, they say a lot about, I suppose, the talent also. Which talented individual that can provide, like in the natural hierarchy, needs a title, like in the artificial one, to do right by others. I think ego has indeed a very big part in that, not so much actual skill and talent. Look, yeah, they may, the ones with the titles, they may spend many hours of their day behind the desk, filling in papers and who knows what else, and they'll go on drinks and parties, etc. Job stuff. They go to dinners, job dinners, blah blah blah. But again, with whose money? With whose labor? Even if it is all supposed to be benevolent, right? And I find it very saddening when it comes down to it. And I count myself into this because I fell for it as well when I was younger. That so many who don't have titles, let's say, they're just at the bottom and they just get to basically plow out a living for those with the titles, while those with the titles get everything basically. They're the ones who are remembered in history too, right? The average Joe that made it possible, who made the carriage, if you will, for all the emperors out there, they're not remembered. Bet you though, all of those emperors wouldn't have gotten very far without the carriages. Might have actually done them some good though without carriages. Train their legs a bit. But do you see where I'm getting at? I hope so. I think as far as a nighttime video, I did pretty well. Got to give ourselves a little compliment too once in a while, right? Um, there's something else I can bring up. Well, oh yeah, as far as artificial hierarchies goes, there is many who are kind of working at the same time. It's not just one per population, right? It's many. Usually it comes with organized religion and politics. That's two very big ones. And I mean, there alone, you have many. I mean, I guess with politics, like even though there are all these different parties, it's still the same hierarchy for everyone involved there. With religion, it's per religion that you have these hierarchies. So I guess you have your Protestant pastor and your Catholic pastor. But it looks alike perhaps, but they're both separate because it's a separate subsect of, in this example, Christianity, and all of that. But yeah, you're then living in a civilization, if you will, where all of that is present all at the same time, right? And I mean, that's just, there are more Abrahamic religions out there. There's more organized religions in general out there, right? With politics, yeah, green, red, blue, whatever. It's I guess you could say that they're all following the same. I suppose at courts, it's also a hierarchy because I guess the judge has the most say. Can you think? Maybe that's a bit alarming, I suppose, as well, right? Like in the many judges, they work, well, they job very hard in a certain way. But they're still the ones with the title. The ones who are being judged, they do not, right? And remember, those without the titles are always at the bottom. That may also be a bit of a red flag for all of us. I suppose so, at least. With natural hierarchy, I would also say, yeah, it's the cooperation of people. With artificial hierarchies, it's the jobbing of people on behalf of others predominantly. But in truth, whichever you prefer to be part of, it is in our own hands. There is, because natural hierarchy is always going to be there. Let's finish with that. Natural hierarchy is always going to be there. There's always people with talents that they have to, get experience in. They have to work on those talents to get them to places. But whether that is, I don't know, a Stone Age situation, if you will, where it's just hunting with a bow, compared to more modern, where it's hunting with a rifle, or whether it's whether it is practices to survive that were, let's say carving out beefuses. Is that how you pronounce it? I hope so. The stones that they turned into knives in the Stone Age. Being able to carve it out, that must take a certain skill that isn't around anymore today, right? Or is very rare. Maybe I should call it that. It has become very rare. And by extent of that, well, it's not. It's still the end goal is still to have a tool with which you can carve things, cut things. That is just turned into, well, the making of knives. That all stays in the middle at the end of the day. With the artificial hierarchy, however, you will always have these people with the titles who are dependent. Even though they're the ones with the power and authority over others, they are the ones who are dependent on those without titles, if you will, to keep the traffic going, if you will, to keep electricity running, to keep the water flowing, what have you. I mean that in the sense of in the sewer systems, what have you. to keep the food coming onto the table, right? To me that seems like an inverse of nature almost. Hence again why it is artificial. Uh, I'm gonna leave you with that. I'm gonna let you think on that on your own and ask me questions if you need to. Is there anything else? I always find, yeah, pardon me, in my own life, I've come across many. I believe most people realize that I follow what you might call the old ways of our people. I care little for civilization, modern civilization. Absolutely, I care not about. I dislike it because I see the harm it does, and even the supposed good that it does is harmful most of the time, or is half baked at best. The deities which are our ancestors, as I see it, are the deities that we belong to, not as slaves but as kinsmen and as friends. I care little then for all these non-white religions that force themselves onto us and want to turn us into slaves on behalf of other peoples, and also these other deities, I suppose. I think people understand what I mean now at this point if you've been watching my videos for a while. And oh boy, now I lost my track of thought. Oh no. um Where was I gonna go with this? Oh boy. Just give me a moment, see if I can recollect. What can I say? It's night, guys. I chose to wake up, but yeah, maybe I should have not done so. Don't let that soon. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah. Well, I got it again. So the following those old deities is a choice you make on your own, and it is part of the natural hierarchy of things. These deities are deities. Most of them were once man, as I believe so. Well, believe. It makes sense, I would say. It makes sense. How else can they be kinsmen? They reached, what do they call it, apotheosis, and they became gods. Or heroes at minimum. And that is using minimum very, very lightly. Because they worked hard. They worked hard to achieve that, right? They sacrificed a lot. And I think that is the key. That there are those out there now who are trying to turn that into an artificial hierarchy as well. Or they base their artificial hierarchies on that, on the old ways, as I call it. They assert themselves as Gödi, as Reikya, as Druid, as whatever else is out there. But pay attention when you run into that, and this interests you as well. It's sort of a hybrid, kinda, but really leaning to the artificial. And they're basically these egotistical individuals who will want to draw resources towards them, attention towards them. Those are the two big ones, and who knows what else. While they are basically the ones who sit on their ass doing, just providing mouth service and asserting titles for them, giving themselves titles. And they can only achieve that if you believe in it. So please, I ask you, be responsible, do it for yourself, do it for the ancestors that you want to pay respect to, for all that they have done, for us today to be here. And please, that is the one thing I will ask, ignore these people. Start ignoring them and call them out. Call them out. I ask you that. The old ways are one of the last few fronts that they can't really touch us upon. They have to. I mean, you see it also with these constant political infiltrants. They call themselves pagan, and then it's like this obese, wretched individual with like the political flags all over the place, saying how pagan it is to be part of their political organization, or how it isn't pagan if it isn't their political organization. That is some examples of that. And then there are those who are just selfish agents on their own. Like they'll provide you some stories and then at the same time they'll say, now donate to my Patreon because I'm your goodie, blah blah blah. Screw that. No. These are people who in a natural environment would be, what would you call that? They would be struggling really, really hard, I suppose. That is to say, they would really try to leech of others, be parasitic. And that is something that is unacceptable. Let alone something you better ignore. Yeah, I wasn't actually expecting myself to end on that note, but it is something that, it came to mind as I said so, and it is something that lies close to my heart, so I guess I just wanted to share that too, be a bit more precise. But I would like to see it too, that we become more careful in that sense. And I have to do it myself, like I used to listen to some of those people. Maybe I can end on that. I used to listen to such people too. I've donated not money, but I've donated a lot of my time. I've given a lot of my time to them, a lot of my energy, and I have made works. I have written works that these individuals ran off with, and that they then used for their own purposes. It's like I tell them a story about a deity that a deity from the local area that I'm from, and then they ask me to write it down, and I would do that for them because I want to help, and I'm always willing to share that. But then they take that story, if you will, and then they run away from me, if you will. They go to their channel or whatever, and it's like, oh guys, look what I found out. Someone, so not even a name mention, has provided me with this. And then they start reading what I've written down. And then people give them money. Or their time, or their energy. So I speak from a place of warning. And experience, I guess. It is just, what happens. Yeah. I think that's it for now, though. I'm gonna continue my walk. And, yeah. I hope it was a bit helpful. That you got something out of it. Is there one final thing? May as well end around 30 minutes while I'm this close. Plus I'm enjoying myself. Yeah, but let's say even if that doesn't interest you, following the old ways and what have you, think, oh Hans, you with your nonsense, your superstitions, blah blah blah. Then still, this may be very important for you to realize. I suppose it's also interesting to realize what kind of religions, etc., inherently come with artificial hierarchies like such. I think that is very important to analyze. Who knows? You might just keep a few people safe that way once you make discoveries of your own. But yeah, I'm gonna go now. You all have a good one, and bye bye.